Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee joins us, who was among a group of Republican lawmakers who outlined a border security proposal to the Department of Homeland Security just last month, and is a member of the House Homeland Security and Oversight Committees. Congressman, do you trust Mexico to really take meaningful action to try and rein in that flood that is going through their country and landing on our doorstep?
Well, I do now, and Eric, thanks for having me on the show. I do now because we've got a president who's willing to put teeth in a deal. You know, any businessman knows, and I'm a businessman. I built a multi-million-dollar healthcare company. I get it. You can't have a deal if you don't have teeth in it, and that's what the president's added. You know, he added the 5% tariff as sort of the teeth, and I think it got their attention, and now you see the activity on their southern border, which you just reported, and of course, now we see their assistance with the asylum seekers, you know, being able to house them in Mexico as that process happens. So absolutely, and it can be measured. You know, we can actually know how many asylum seekers have actually, you know, applications are out there, and then what the crossing numbers are. So there's a way to measure it. This is about teeth in a deal, and the guy who wrote the art of the deal is making it happen. Yeah, and that deal goes in 45-day increments. So after 45 days, we can review it and say, hey, Mexico, you gotta do the right thing. That's
we're
exactly
gonna slap
right.
more on?
I'm sorry?
Or we're going to slap more on if they don't abide by the agreement.
Exactly. I mean, that's a good deal. It's got teeth in it. You know, when I was a state senator, we did a bill, anti-sanctuary city bill, and the state already had a law that said you can't have you can't have a sanctuary city. But until we put teeth in it, some of the cities that were thinking about it, I mean, they were moving forward. I mean, you have to have teeth in these kinds of deals to make it happen. And in terms of teeth, you want to put more teeth in these deals. You're a part of writing that letter to Homeland Security. Let me show you some of the proposals that you want and think should be enacted. Expanding training for the credible fear interviews. That's when we interview people, the asylum seekers, when they come to our border. Limiting parole policy, limiting the work authorization to only those who basically qualify. Hike the asylum fees, and the Flores agreement that has caused such consternation and controversy. Why do you think we need this? Well, the Flores Agreement's an excellent example. It basically creates, if they grab a child, they've got a visa to get into the United States, and that's ridiculous. Even if it was well-intentioned, it's been a very bad policy, and it has to end. And I know we're on that letter in the House, but there's also an initiative in the Senate with Senator Lindsey Graham, who's working very hard also on his side of the building. We're going to have to get this done if we want to fix our immigration issue. And I appreciated your comments about the challenges in Guatemala, but that's sort of a long-term fix. That's not going to get fixed, you know, right away. The crisis at the border has got to get fixed. It is dire. You know, I'm also a physician, and the human suffering down there is just, it's appalling, and we've got to act. And the president's ready. You know, he wants the $4.5 billion. He's asked for it. Hopefully we can get that through the appropriations process. There's a lot of work that has to be done, and it's a crisis. We got to do it now.
It is a growing crisis, and it is so heartbreaking when you hear these stories of what is happening, sir, and the deaths of the young people and others in custody. But you know what critics are saying? That they're saying basically, look, Congressman, asylum is a legal right. You have the legal right to come here and ask for asylum. And these type of proposals are punishing the innocent who are fleeing, you know, violence and drugs and gangs and potential killing from these three nations where they're coming from.
Sure, but the problem at the southern border is also a crisis for Americans, right? It's costing thousands of taxpayer dollars. We have 300 Americans every week who die from heroin overdose, and we know that 90% of particularly the synthetic opioids, fentanyl, are coming across our southern border. You know, we got a duty to protect Americans, and certainly we want to help those people in Guatemala who are suffering, but that again is a more long-term fix. The real crisis is at the southern border, and it needs repair now. You know, you can cite those studies from like Doctors Without Borders. 31% of the women who make the trek from the Northern Triangle across Mexico into our border or through our border are being sexually assaulted. This is a humanitarian crisis, and if the left really cared about women, they'd be with us on this issue. But tragically, they're more concerned about 2020 talking points and their own power than they are helping people who are suffering, and it's appalling.
You are certainly right that people are suffering, and we have to address it. One thing, finally,
yes,
that I looked at, that William just reported, that the people they interviewed were looking for jobs. And let me show you a study from Syracuse University that shows that most asylum seekers are rejected 69%, nearly 69% from El Salvador, more than 76% from Honduras, 75% from Guatemala are rejected. Do you think that is showing that the judges are saying they don't have cause to come here? And what does that say about the current situation?
Well, it's indicative of the problems in the Northern Triangle countries. But it's proof that the system, at least on what the judges are doing, they're actually doing their job, and they're appropriately applying the law. What is a true, asylum situation? But really, we've got to stop the flow, because we don't have the court capacity to handle the flow right now. Over 100,000 people in March. I mean, like I said, it's a crisis, and I'm going to continue to beat that drum until we get a solution.
Congressman Mark Green, it's getting back to record levels not seen in a decade.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for speaking out and talking to us today, of course. Julia?
Still to come, new Fox News polls out on the Trump administration's approach to immigration. What voters think next.
Hands-free driving isn't the future. It's the present. Celebrating 2.5 million miles of true hands-free driving with the available Super Cruise driver assistance feature. Super Cruise, another innovation from Cadillac.
Geico has over 75 years of savings and service.
Whoa.
Travis and IT made it. It's amazing.
Geico
Oh, is that Travis's app? It's pretty cool, isn't it?